Yep. I have 4:15. I call the meeting to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Sam Martin.
Yeah.
And Rick Morgan's here. Bob Freeman did notify us he was unable to be here due to a family emergency. Public input. Sir.
I just wanted to give a quick overview of what happened down in Concord about HB 1452, and that's the bill to use equalized valuation only for the apportionment of the school taxes. As I said, the bill was most likely going to be ITL, which means inexpedient to legislate. I don't have the total of how the committee voted. I know that many people on the committee are from property poor towns, so they are affected by the larger tax rate and the way it's apportioned. And they, in theory, agree with, that something has to be done. But it seems like the major roadblock, which I mentioned before, was those local agreements. The state, in most cases, does not, even though we have prescriptive law in the state where the legislature tells the lower subdivisions what to do, what they can or cannot do, they don't like to do that all the time. So the local area agreements seems to have been a big roadblock at that point. But like I said, I'm still going to pull it off the consent calendar, which means instead of it going right to a voice vote and going on and failing, it's going to be pulled off, and I'm going to, again, give my testimony pretty much explaining why I should think the House as a whole should overturn the ITL, which is the committee recommendation. It's going to be impossible, especially if it's, a unanimous ITL. But I'm going to plead to the property poor towns. So now I'm going to have 400 people looking at me, and I'm going to say each and every one of the towns that are, don't feel that their taxes are apportioned well enough and feel they have no control, then they need to vote to overtake the ITO. And I have other things planned. So this isn't the end of this. It made a very clear point. And apparently, all the towns need to look at these agreements they have. I don't know if you have yours on file, but well, that's just important. We need to look at how this has been done. We found ours in Brookfield, and ours has not been revisited since 1963, as far as I can tell.
That would be my guess that you'll find here as well.
Right. The statute says that anything prior to 1963 can be reviewed every 5 years, but it doesn't say anything about what happens after 1963. It's hard to say that since I was born in '65, so that seems like a long time ago. So that's where we stand on that. The other bill I want to report.
Can you,
sure.
before you leave that one, playing this out for a moment, let's presume that they don't override the ITL. Does that make it dead? Can you get it into a study committee? It kills it.
It's dead.
Okay.
My other option is to put a floor amendment on the bill, and the floor amendment would have to be voted on. And the floor amendment would be to change the bill to read, go to a study committee. Mm-hmm. That's another option. Perhaps I can convince the 400 people to vote to send it to a study committee to look at it more carefully. I think that's a reasonable way of approaching it.
I do as well, and that's why I'm asking if that could happen. I mean, listen, I applaud your efforts so far. I think it's certainly worthwhile, and it's worthwhile not only to Ossipee and Effingham and Brookfield, but to small towns across the state. I would hate to see it just go by the wayside again. If you get into a study committee where there's a group, presumably representing all parties, to study it, maybe there can be something positive come out of it.
Yeah, I agree. And the second bill I put in and sponsored was the auditing of Health and Human Services. I don't know if I told you this last time, but the only two audits I found were 2003 and 2009. The committee pretty much agreed that they have not been audited for a long time. But most crucially, I don't see any corrective action in those reports. I see that the Health and Human Services has agreed or concurred with the findings of the report, but I don't see any corrective action. I never see anybody going back, you know, to see, did they fix everything? And if the last one was 2009, what happened from that point? I don't know. So just to say I don't know to such a huge department, I think is troublesome.
What's the dollar figure ballpark for Health and Human Services in a year?
I don't remember that off the top of my head. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
But it's so much that last year we had basically an emergency vote to appropriate more money for that department because their budget was going to run out. So we actually had to fill in a gap. That tells me there's something's not happening right if you had to come to the legislature at the last minute to infuse them with some cash. So we'll see what happens with that.
There's no word on what that's...
It was heard, but it was not exected or it was not voted on by committee yet. So I'll find out soon. And I have not gotten back the majority report. When a bill goes through committee and it's voted on, the majority have an opinion, which is a majority vote, a majority opinion. And then the people who voted against the ITL, for instance, would be a minority report. Apparently, everybody voted unanimous because there was only a majority report, but I don't have that verbiage yet, so I don't know.
Okay,
So that's it.
thank you. Anything else on the public input? Okay. First thing we have are the minutes of the Selectmen's Department Head Meeting and Work Session, which occurred on Monday, January 22nd. I make a motion we accept it as printed.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We have the minutes of the Selectmen's Meeting, which occurred here on January 22nd. I make a motion we accept them as printed.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We have the check voucher totals, wages and benefits, period ending 1/27, was $45,934.88. We had accounts payable for week ending 1/20 of $25,761.62. We had a school payment of $313,005 for a total disbursed of $384,701.50. Additionally, we had accounts payable for week ending 1/29 in the amount of, and that's the water and sewer, in the amount of $7,602.19. I make a motion we sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Would you just let us stay, please?
Yes, I do. While it may seem that we go through some of this stuff quite quickly, we have had a chance to individually review and read this prior to the meeting. We have our quarterly tax filing. Which unfortunately only gets signed by the chairman. So Form 941, quarterly tax return. Make a motion we sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have a contract for use of facilities. An Angel Night wants to have a dance here in Town Hall. Schedule's been okayed by Craig. I make a motion we approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have a contract for use of facilities for the Main Street program to use the Town Hall gym for a penny sale in March. Schedule's been okayed by Craig. I make a motion we approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We have two proposed warrant articles from our tax collector. One, to see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $9,995 for the purpose of restoring 3 books entitled Ossipee 1888 to 1929 Town Minutes. Sum to be paid by a grant from the Conservation License Plate Grant Program, and no amount to be raised by taxation. And the second article she proposes we include is to see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 for the purpose of purchasing a vault shelving system with carriages and tracks for improvements to our current vault. We have discussed these in work session, and I'm going to make a motion that we include both of these warrant articles for town meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. You have an application for a veterans credit that has been reviewed by our assessor. Person is in fact eligible for both regular and disabled veteran status. I make a motion we approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have a Selectmen's deed. This is for a property that we had actually taken for taxes, and the person bought it back during the statutorily allowed period. I don't think I need to read his name and everything. I make a motion that we execute the deed.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We have a contract for use of facilities. Jackie Brown, who uses the gym for a birthday party. The schedule's been okayed by Craig. I make a motion we approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You have a contract for use of facilities. It's the old Home Week Committee. Penny sale, end of March. Schedule's been okayed by Craig. I make a motion we approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We have the Highway Department work log, which is here in the folder if anybody'd like to look at it. We have a letter notifying us, this is from DRED, State of New Hampshire. The New Hampshire Division of Forest and Lands has sold an estimated, 428,800 board feet of saw logs and 612 tons of hardwood, roundwood, mixed wood chips, and softwood pulp on the Little Pine River State Forest in the town of Ossipee to an E.R. Ames Forestry from Wolfboro, who closes a copy. The permit, timber included price from the timber sale contract and agreement for your reference for the timber tax, which is payable by the purchaser to your town. Let's hear if anybody'd like to look at it. We have our updated contract with the Lake Freeman Humane Society, who takes care of all of the strayed dogs that are picked up in particular by a dog officer. It's the same continuing contract we've had in years past. And it's billed based on the number of days that the dog stays here. It's at the same rates that it has been, correct? I make a motion we sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Speaking of dogs, get a print your name and then sign it beside mine. We have the reports from our dog officer, which are here if anybody'd like to look at. We have an email from the project manager, Bureau of Highway Design. Give up an update on the various projects in Ossipee. The bridge replacement project for Lovell, Bear Camp, and Bear Camp Relief is moving forward. We're nearly finished with the right-of-way acquisitions, and the design is well underway. We anticipate advertising in July 2018, and will be visiting us to give us an update before then. The project to reconstruct Route 16 from New Hampshire 28 to Green Mountain Furniture is moving ahead. And in doing right-of-way acquisitions is scheduled to advertise for construction in June 2019. with construction beginning that fall. A project to reconstruct the intersection of 16 and 41 is being evaluated for scope refinement. I'll be in touch once we have made more details to share with you. The project will not advertise as originally anticipated. We were scheduled for January 2019, but are thinking the scope might include a left turn lane between 41 and 25 West, so the design has been delayed to consider that effort. It goes on and it's quite lengthy, but one question is about the canoe or boat access beside the Bear Camp River Bridge that was discussed back during the public hearings.
We're gonna see if they could do it on the northbound side.
Correct, and there's no mention of that in here. I think we should reach out to Mark McConkey, because the current access goes over private land, the Hodgson land, on the left-hand side going north. It would seem to me that they need to either secure some sort of a right-of-way from him to continue that, or it's a much better looking piece of property for that than parking on the right-hand side going north. Maybe communicate and make sure that Mark has a copy of this, because they're asking for input regarding that car top access. We have a copy of the consent calendar from the Executive Council, which is here if you'd like to see it. We have two letters of thanks to two different police officers, Wayne Valley and to Kim Hatch. One for their handling and helping some people who were broken down, and the other for attempting to render assistance to a young lady who died. Make sure that the police department has both of those, and if you would prepare a note from us to them, we'll sign it next week. One of the questions that was asked last week was regarding Comeau, and we have just received this afternoon a petition warrant article, and it's by petition of 25 or more registered voters to see if the town would approve the following petition warrant article at the 2018 town meeting ballot vote. Petition warrant language per Senate Bill 191 from the 2017 State of New Hampshire legislative session: shall we allow the operation of Keno games within the town? This needs to be now sent to the tax collector's office to make sure that there are in fact 25 registered voters.
Correct.
And presuming that there are, it will go on the ballot. The other item to discuss is whether or not the town wants to vote to do a discounted property tax for industrial, commercial, and or both. There is a new law that was passed under RSA 179, I believe.
79.
Excuse me?
79E.
79E, which allows a town who chooses to adopt it to discount the municipal property taxes up to 50% for a maximum of 10 years for commercial, industrial, or both. And that is on the increased of assessed value. So if somebody builds a new building, then presumably they would get the full 50% of that full value. It also involves, if they renovated a commercial business or an industrial, the increase, whatever the increase that they do in assessment based on those renovations can also be qualified for that exemption. This is one I discussed briefly last week. The towns used to be able to do this back when Ames Department Store located here was one that I know happened here. In that case, it was a little bit different. The first year they paid 10%, second year 20, third year 30, on up until they were paying 100% after 10 years. This law does not allow that drastic, but it does allow up to 50%. Two schools of thought, and I agree with both of them. One, this would be a great tool for economic development to help attract businesses to come here. I think it would give you a very competitive advantage over those towns who don't do it. At the same time, I think it would put you at a very competitive disadvantage if all the towns around us do it and we don't. So I look at it as 50% for up to 10 years. My thoughts are that we ought to, and we can adopt any percentage to a maximum of 50%. My thoughts are that we ought to go to the 50%, but that we ought to do it for 5 years. I don't know, did you folks in economic development have a chance to talk about this? Or,
Yeah.
And
We, I was actually going to write you a letter for next week's selectmen's meeting
okay.
regarding 79E
Yep.
to ask the select board if they'd be willing to put it on as a selectmen's warrant.
Yep.
I don't know who submitted those letters. Now I don't know if it's
It's
worth.
one letter. It's one, I actually asked, this is typically a copy of the bill.
Oh.
I had asked for that information so that we could review it.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned it at the roundtable discussion. I think we would be absolutely nuts to not do this.
I agree. It was something that passed last June.
Mhm.
And COOS has benefited from this for a long time, I believe 8 years. It was House Bill 319, I think, as it went through. And I mean, it only gives us that competitive advantage, and I'd hate to be behind the 8 ball on this one.
Especially at 50%. I mean, I think the argument could be made, it could be been even higher than that, but especially capped at 50%. Again, using Ames as an example of what that brought. That business brought 75 jobs. It brought a department store that this area desperately needed back then. So I still think it was a win-win, and even 10% on the taxes on Ames department store, I'm sure, were a pretty substantial amount of money.
Well, as the Economic Development Council, it really helps us when we do have our resources together and we start creating these actionable items to be able to incentivize someone moving here. It's not just the people that are here currently, but it's the people that we can go out and actually prospect to come here and invest their dollars in our community, our business community.
And it's a question, it'll be ultimately the townspeople who decide whether or not to do it, but you can do just industrial, or you can do just commercial, or you can do both. Some of the towns around us, I think, are doing just industrial. That seems short-sighted to me. And the reason that I say that is, and you probably know these statistics more than me, you know, a great number of small businesses fail in the first 5 years. That is their do or die time. That's the time when they're building up their business. To me, it's the most crucial time for not just, you know, I'm not looking at this as only going to benefit some great big company that's looking to come here. I'm looking at this being a benefit to the startups and the little guy who's trying to get a leg up and try to get some feet underneath.
Sure. Well, it's really win-win-win because not only does the business owner benefit with tax savings, the town actually benefits from the spread of the tax base. I don't think we should be picky on what comes here, whether it's industrial or commercial. It should benefit anyone that's willing to spend their dollars here and invest into the business community.
I think this also dovetails pretty well. We already have, I think there's 3 economic revitalization zones, which provide for a 5-year abatement on the business profits tax in the state. That was done in a couple of areas, one here in the square in particular, the other involving the former Lidl property down on Route 16. And that's, again, an incentive to try to get a business to locate there. The state forgoes the business profits tax for 5 years. And, you know, again, it's an incentive. I was prepared to act on this tonight, but hell, I actually would rather wait until next week. Let us get the letter from the economic. And specifically, would you guys address or try to recommend to us whether or not you think it ought to be the 5 years or the 10 years? because it's up to a maximum of 10.
Sure.
But I think, if I read the law correctly, it has to be revisited at 5 anyway. So that's kind of why we were settling on the 5, not,
If we settled on the 5, that would mean you would revisit it at 5, or would that, it would end at 5?
I think the way this legislation is set up, it would end at whatever term we set.
Okay.
And then we would obviously have to revisit it if it was working. I mean, I can't imagine the board that's in place at that time would,
Yeah, I mean, as long as, I think as long as the board would be willing to hear a business out, if they said, hey, look, we're growing, we're here, we've been here for 4 3/4 years, is there anything we can do to help us grow? I don't know if it's something that could be extended at some point, or should we have that hard stop?
I don't think, from the way I read, I don't think, using your scenario, I don't think you can pick and choose.
Sure.
It has to be either you open it up to all industrial or to all commercial. And again, though, I mean, I'm playing this out. If this is at all successful over a 5-year period of time, and there's really nothing that I can see to make it unsuccessful, because at minimum, they're paying 50% of the tax.
Right.
So it's a win-win in that regard. I can't imagine a board at the end of 5 years who wouldn't want to turn around and reauthorize it again for 5 years, or maybe
Well,
at
that's
that
my
point, you're
Can
more
they change-
comfortable.
That's my question, is at that point, can they say, you know what, this is working so well, let's just go 10?
I don't think they have to. I think they reauthorize it for, for whatever they want to.
Okay.
But right now, it's at a maximum of 10, but it sounds like they really want to have that revisit at 5, which I think probably makes some sense too. So,
So my question to you is, we just had our meeting last week, so I wouldn't be able to bring that in front of the board to make a motion. Would I, as chair, be able to just make that recommendation to the
If
board?
what you might, not to tell you your business, you might give, some of the people who are familiar with it a call and say, I'm looking for a consensus here. And I'm not stuck on the 5 versus 10, but that's the only question. We have discussed it in work session, and I believe everybody is in favor of it. So, okay. All right. We have a payroll reimbursement request. This is for water and sewer to reimburse $2,573.69. I make a motion to sign. All in favor? Aye. We have a water and sewer warrant to authorize the tax collector to collect $1,174.33. I make a motion we sign.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We have an abatement application. It's on water and sewer. The Methodist Church was billed for using 45,900 gallons of water, when in fact they had only used 45 gallons. It results in a refund or abatement of $708.24. All it was is the multiplier should have been changed to 1 when they put the new meter in, and it didn't get changed. I make a motion we approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Please, the red folder. Old business. Brad, anything new on 28-171?
No, we have nothing new on that I've heard, so.
Sidewalks. We have a meeting coming here.
Next Monday at 3 o'clock.
After, wherever?
Yep, yep, wherever, so EDC can be involved in that. Alan Hanscom, District 3 engineer from Guilford, will be over here to talk to us
Okay.
about all of our options and all that stuff, through the sidewalks and the roads out here.
Okay. Anything new on the covered bridge?
No, nothing new on that.
Can we get an update for next meeting
Sure.
from them? Maybe also on 28-171, see where they, I know the last, we just haven't heard anything from them in a while.
Yeah, I think the last thing was about a month or so ago. I think they said they were out, I'm trying to remember the dates now. It might be 2019 or
Yeah.
for advertising to build in 2019 or 2020 due to the land acquisition, the right of way they have to do, so.
Town Beach, nothing really to report. We still have heard nothing from the court. We'll be taking it up again next Monday night. Right now, there's nothing new to report. Anything else under old business? Sure.
Last meeting, we put in $10,000 for a study for the air conditioning system at OCC. Anything ever become of that?
Yes and no. The air conditioners have not been put in. The reason being is because the electrical system there is not sufficient to carry it. We have got some estimates on what it's going to cost for the electrical. And while we were in the midst of that, a concern was raised regarding whose responsibility the maintenance of the building is, whether it's ours or the town of Ossipee owns the building, OCC has a long-term lease. There's a question about what is maintenance and what are improvements. Enough of a question that we have actually got the lease being reviewed by the town attorney, who can then give us an opinion on what we can and cannot do. It's not as simple as saying OCC is a great organization. We all know that. It's not as simple as saying, well, we raised the money, let's do that. It becomes an issue because of DRA. It may well be that it's not legal for us to spend that money on that building. We're working our way through it and trying to get clarification, and in the meantime, we have done some improvements that were on a safety standpoint. They had some issues with the sprinkler system that had to be addressed, but we're trying to navigate it as best we can. Long story short, the air conditioners have not been put in. They couldn't be put in until we address the electrical, and now there's a question about whether or not we have to address the electrical or they have to address the electrical.
But I think the only thing was the money was only actually there for a study to research what we could do, not to actually do the job.
Well, we actually had hoped that it was gonna do the majority of the job, and it probably would have if it were not for the electrical issues which came up. So, we're trying to navigate it.
It was in the back of my mind.
No,
I just was wondering.
No, I'm glad you did, but it's gotten a lot more complicated than it should have been, but there's some questions that have to be answered.
Well,
So,
it's good that we're finding out.
I hope we get some clarity out of it anyway. Anything else under old business? New business?
Yes. All the town forms that are on the website have now been updated to interactive, and you're able to fill them in online. They will require a wet signature. You will have to bring them to town hall and have them signed. But you'll have to sign them in person, either with the zoning board, the planning board, the selectmen's forms are all the same.
Okay. The only other thing in the new business, we have, again, had discussions in workshop regarding the candidates night. Last year, it was a, what do you call it? Ossipee Listens did facilitation of discussion and circles, and it was pretty confusing. I think it was helpful, and I think it was fine, and I would invite them to continue to do that. But we also had some people who requested we also have as part of it, whether it's before or after the traditional candidates night, so that everybody gets a chance to ask each candidate the same question and that everybody gets to hear their responses. So what I'm going to suggest is that we just give a note to Kelly and ask her, it's a selectmen request, that we proceed with a traditional candidates night, and certainly if Ossipee Listens wants to organize something that expands upon that, fantastic. Agreement?
Yes.
Okay. We'll just send a
That's
note.
my idea.
Yeah, I know, but, okay. All right, anything else under old business? The warrant articles and revenues, we will be finalizing for next Monday night. There is a budget committee meeting on the 31st, this Wednesday. That's at the Freight House at 6:30. Public input, second one. Sure.
I have one question. I agree with the 50% tax and all that, but where are you going to make that up? I mean, now the town has lost 50%.
No, it's only on, and that's what I tried to explain to the beginning, it's only on one new construction, so you're not losing anything. You're simply you're only getting 50% of the tax bill. Or in some cases, renovation, if somebody retrofits a building to become a business, in that case, the exemption only pertains to the change in the assessment. So if you have a $100,000 building, you're paying taxes on 100,000. You renovate it, make it worth 200,000, and the exemption's only on the second 100. So the town will never lose anything. We will not gain the full value until after the 5 years. So we don't lose anything.
Okay, the reason I came was, we had a sign at the triangle across the street from the Congregational Church, and we kind of dedicated that triangle to Nan Egan, because
Okay.
she did a lot, took care of it and all that.
Yes, she did.
And we received permission to put the sign up that said Nan's Place. Well, it was taken down by individuals, and we did find it, but I was wondering if we could have a separate pole, maybe like we did at the other one in the Courthouse Square. We could add, the only one you can add it to is a stop sign, maybe down low, but.
Yeah, they get tested if we put something on their stop sign.
Okay. Well, there's no town thing in there,
Right.
except the street sign, that's round.
Brad, I'll leave that to you if you can put a, I mean,
Yeah, I know we had a short discussion with DOT when Nash brought up about putting up some directional signs in those triangles there too, and DOT basically said, no, we can't put anything up in there, so so I'm kind of surprised, because like you said, I know you got permission for that Nan sign, because we put it up for you, I believe, or did you guys put that one up?
I'm not
I
sure.
thought
It might have been.
I thought we
Mr.
might have
Price.
put it up for you, but anyway,
is this district engineer that's coming next Monday, is he somebody that we could talk
We
to
could ask
about those signs as
Yep,
well?
yep.
So maybe make sure and get that on our list of things to talk
Yep,
about.
yep.
And then we'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Figure out something there.
Okay. Ash?
Yeah, so, I apologize for not coming last Monday, wasn't feeling so well, but 2 weeks ago, we had our first ever Envision Night in here. Thank you both, and of course Bob for coming. It was great to see a little bit from all the boards. People came to show up and participate. I just wanted to get it on the record, hopefully people are watching. I've had a lot of people ask what happens next, so I just wanted to reemphasize what our plan is. And we had our meeting last week, and we were able to compile a lot of data and put together a small report. We're taking the next 20-30 days until our next meeting to come up with presentation items. We'll design our presentation at February's council meeting, and then design a 5 to 10, 12-minute presentation that we'd like to go to the planning board, the zoning board, and of course here in front of the selectmen, just to give everyone the information. That way everyone can see that, you know, something tangible came out of that. And it's really eye-opening, actually, what was coming out that night. So I just wanted to get it out there so everybody knows that, you know, we're not just going to rest on our laurels here. We're working hard and trying to put that data together and make some sense out of it.
I was quite impressed. I mean, and I was glad that the entire Board of Selectmen chose to go. I was glad of that. But there was a really good, diverse group of people there.
Yeah, really.
Young to older and everything in between. There was, I thought, a lot of good ideas that came out of it, and it was really nothing more than a brainstorming session. But it's all well and good on this board and your council. It's you know, it's all well and good that we think we know how the town ought to proceed. But I think you have a lot better chance of success and a lot better chance of getting a more rounded proposal the more ideas you get in the mix. And that's what something like this does. Nothing came out of there scribed in stone, but there were a lot of consensus ideas. There were some really good suggestions. You know, some things that, off the top of the head, things that we're currently discussing. Sidewalks were very much supported in the village, very much supported. The idea of a town beach was very much supported. I mean, and a bunch of other things. But I thought it was a very worthwhile effort. And I hope, that's something that, if we ever finally do get to the point where we're getting the master plan actually updated, that type of a forum could be fantastically helpful.
And we'd like to be a part of that process through what we did that night. and facilitation of it, you know, that master plan needs to get done. I know we're waiting on some zoning and some issues there, but the moment that ink dries, we really need to be working hard on putting that master plan together, because the younger generation, or generations that are starting to become involved with the town and the community are not, I don't see them as being here for a short time. I see them being committed and here for a long time. So having that kind of commitment, making sure the master plan gets done, and then having a younger group keeping an eye on that master plan is important. And I think we all see the value in that, at least from our side, and I hope that the boards are feeling the same way.
I think they are, and I mean, I would encourage you to use that when you talk about doing the report on this discussion to the planning board. I mean, the planning board is the one statutorily who's going to be doing the master plan. So there'd be a great opportunity for you to segue into that discussion. You know, now we've talked about this before, and I was kind of taken to task at one point because I said the master plan wasn't where the paper was printed on. And it wasn't, because nobody ever followed it. I've now participated in, I think this will be the third time that I've been involved in some way or another on the writing of the master plan. And they spent all kinds of time and effort and compiled this great big plan, and then it goes on the shelf and nobody ever did anything with it until the next time that you're statutorily required to do it again.
There is no statutory requirement for the master plan. No, there
There's a
isn't.
recommendation of it doing it
Right,
every
it's
10
not-
years.
it's
But,
yeah, right, but there is no statutory.
But it goes on a shelf and collects dust until the next time around that somebody decides to redo it. So, you know, long-term plans, 5-year, 10-year plans, I don't know how a government can function if it doesn't have some. Whether or not you accomplish everything you want to in those 5 or 10 years is another story. I mean, we do it with our roads every year. I mean, we have a plan on what we're gonna do for road improvements in town over the next 5 years. Now, it might get tweaked now and then because of money or otherwise, but
It's
I don't know how you function.
And you can't run a business without one. It's a living document. It's not something that is the rule. It's a guide, you know. And I think as long as we have our ideas put down as to what we want to see as an end game in 5 or 10 years, and then as we go, it's being checked and balanced and looked at. And as long as you're staying a course, I mean, oftentimes without one like that, it's like getting in a car and just driving to California. Well, you'd want to know your destination first before you can design a road map. So I think that really will help us in the long run. To follow up with what we're doing, I wanted to ask the board the legalities of something. We want to grab more of that data. There were probably 8 to 12 bullet point items, that the dots that night, that were the hot buttons. I'm wondering what the legality is of putting just a quick survey sheet with a couple check mark boxes on it, and if we had permission or had the ability to be at town voting day, to be out in the hallway just taking survey. Is that legal, not legal, frowned upon?
I don't think you can pass out, whether or not you did have a survey, I don't know. The question, quite frankly, that would be a Katie Missouri question.
Okay.
I would check with her as moderator.
Sure.
She's very much abreast of that,
Yep.
either her or Kelly.
Yep.
But
It's the only day of the year that 800 to 1,000 people walk by yet.
Mhm.
And, I mean, we could really grab some great information that we could do something
Yeah.
with. So that's the only reason. If we had to stand out at the picketing lines, maybe we have to do that. But I wanted to put it in front of you
Yeah.
before we go.
I certainly wouldn't be opposed to it. But, and again, I agree with you that, that it's just information being collected, and then,
Yeah.
there's nothing binding about it. But as far as the actual meeting itself, that's completely run by the moderator, and
Okay.
I would defer to Katie.
Does she have a box here?
No,
Do you have her email?
I don't. I only have the phone number. Kelly might have an email for her.
Yeah. But then we can get an answer for her.
If you get that report to me when you finish it, I'll create a link on your page, and it'll be accessible through the website.
Great.
Decided to raise your hand, Marie. I saw it the whole.
I did. I haven't been able to make it to a meeting in a while. I was wondering if you guys have addressed Doors Corner Road, just with the new road that you put down on top of it. in the, was it in the spring or in the fall, when you surfaced it? Has anyone addressed that, or has anyone complained about that, or?
How rough it is?
It's terrible. I mean, it's not, but it's not just the road. It's almost like this crazy frost heaves going down the whole road. Like, I don't know if they're frost heaves, I don't know if it's where they butted up, like started and stopped. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you've driven down there,
Yeah,
or
that's-
if the town has addressed anything, or,
We haven't addressed anything yet. We've been observing it, obviously, that
Yeah.
and Elm Street, we did the same thing too. What it appears to be is where the old cracks were and the old pavement is where they're heaving up still, and you get that, the separation there, get the frost heaves there from the moisture. We haven't really had the opportunity to look to see if this new product sealed across and stayed sealed across the old cracks. So if it's just from residual salt or something, moisture that's down under those old cracks is doing it, we don't know yet, so.
I mean, because even as far as like the roads being plowed, I mean, I've never, in the 14, 15 years I've been doing the mail, I've never had a problem on that road, but this year it just seems much icier and not plowed as clean as it was. I just don't know if it's the surface that they put down that.
I don't think that affects the iciness of it. I think the ice is from the type of year we're having this year. I mean, we've had this in all of our roads. We've had
Right, I mean, but we've had
tremendous amount of ice to deal
over
with,
the past
but-
couple of years, the ice
Yeah.
has been really bad, but the road has always been,
Yeah.
it's been, in the past, has been great, I mean, as far as you guys maintaining it, but it's just, I just didn't know if it was this new surface that was,
And I think
That
part of
was
it too is
helping to it.
we're learning as we're going along here that having the stone, the pea stone in there, the salt works differently because the salt has to create that brine, which is the liquid that'll spread out over the road or from the crown out to
Right.
melt everything off. And with this pea stone, it seems to hold it so it doesn't flow out as much. So we're kind of coming to the determination that we actually might have to increase the amount of salt that we put out on a load there. Instead of, we try to shoot for like 500 pounds per mile.
right.
Might have to up to 600 or 700 pounds per mile to get it, that same effect that we had before.
And
So
it seems like the road is coming up, like that pea stone is, it's almost like a gravel road now.
Right.
It's not, I didn't know if that's
Yeah.
what it was supposed to do.
Sometimes it does the first year or so, and then it stops doing it after a while, because you find over time with traffic on it, that tar will actually pull up more into the stone and lock it in more and stuff, so it'll actually end up smoothing out and actually get a smoother texture on the top after another year or two on it, so.
Right. I mean, I know that it was
It's a brand new thing, it's brand
I
new
know it
thing.
was a brand new.
It is.
So I just didn't know.
Yep.
I mean, I wouldn't want to see that on many more of the town
Yeah.
roads.
We
I
don't-
guess
We
it's
definitely, we definitely evaluate it first.
Yeah, the jury is still out on it. It sounds good, and if it does what it says it will do, it will extend the life of the roads to the point where financially it's very, very cost effective. Now, is there a downside to it? Maybe. But we have no plans to do any more roads. We've got those two.
Thank you.
We want to look at it, see how they do, and then we'll reevaluate it as to whether or not it's something we want to continue, but.
I have to open my window. That road is so noisy when you're driving down it. I just open my window to get move air instead of listening to the sound of the road. I can believe how noisy it is. And I have to travel it several times a week, so.
So, okay. Yes, sir.
If I say the date, February 3rd, what's going to happen? Does anybody know?
It's not my birthday.
Saturday.
Sorry about that, Christine.
What day of the week is February 3rd?
Saturday.
It's not the Patriots game. It's not my birthday.
Okay, I'll
Is it
tell
your
you.
birthday?
Must be a deliberative session of the school
It's
district.
the school district manipulative, listen to me. Deliberative session, Saturday at Kingswood Art Center, 10 a.m. Be there. If you think your taxes are too high, you have to be there because nobody's showing up. So, this is America. We don't just let the government just do whatever it wants. You gotta stand up.
Taxes are,
Yeah.
I love them just the way they are.
But I say this because I'm trying to get the area district towns to at least put it on their website,
Yep.
on their calendar.
It's
So
gonna,
at
the whole
least
thing is gonna
people-
go up on the website, yeah.
So everybody knows, because it's a Saturday at 10 a.m., you can't say it's during the week, you can't get there. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else under public input?
Is that meeting that the DOT is coming, is that public?
Sure.
And when is it?
Next Monday at 3 o'clock,
Oh,
and it'll be here. Why don't we make sure and do that downstairs?
Yep.
Rather than upstairs, make sure everybody can get in. And hopefully we get some answers on, particularly the sidewalks, but it's a great chance while they're here to get some other answers.
How did that meeting come about? Brad, did you ask for that meeting?
Yes,
Awesome.
yep.
That's great.
One of the warrant articles, real quickly, that you weren't here last week, I think we discussed it last week, is we'll be looking to add funds to the existing capital reserve fund for sidewalks. So,
I thought, so actually, I'm glad you brought that up. I guess we're not done here. The last time we spoke about that, it was several months ago, before the holidays anyway, and the question was the name of the account that was in, because it was at one time about the federal dollars. So that got figured out, obviously.
We haven't presented it at all this meeting, and I just happened to pull out the warrant article today. So it was established in 2009, was it, Brad? It was either 2008 or 2009, Article 25, and it says, to see if the town will vote to create an expendable trust fund under the provisions of RSA 3119A, to be known as the Ossipee Sidewalk Expendable Trust Fund for the planning, layout, and installation of sidewalks in the town of Ossipee, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $75,000 to be placed in said fund, and to designate the selectmen as agents to expend. And then it says, Safety Committee will be applying a Safe Route to School for grant funds. It was just
So-
added in there, so it
So we
is-
can use the
yes.
monies in that without having to move them at the town meeting. Excellent. Oh, that's great. Okay.
and based on a preliminary estimate of what it would cost to complete the plans that were already in place, we would be about $50,000 short of that right now. So we're recommending, we're gonna put on the warrant article, put $25,000 of it in, figuring that by the time we get through the design and everything else, we can just simply put the other 25,000 in and build.
Wow,
So, okay?
that's excellent.
Anything else? If not, I make them, we don't have any need for non-public?
We do not.
Super. I make a motion, we adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.